And that one feels good. Leicester City 4, Southampton 1. I mean, phenomenal performance. Really happy with it. But I know, again, thanks for coming back on the channel. How do you think that game went?
Amazing. I mean, well, do you know what? Before the game started, a lot of people were worried it was going to be a Mexican standoff of two teams that like possession, and we were just going to see passing and a boring 0-0. And after 21 seconds, it's like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. And I'm really glad that happened, even if we'd have conceded, actually, because it would have meant that the game had to be, people had to attack and all that. From there on, I mean, brilliant game to watch. I was really interested in this one from a tactical point of view because they do try and play a sort of similar style to Leicester. But I mean, look, let's get the facts here, right? A lot of people had Southampton down to be favourites to win the championship title this season, along with Leicester. We've just gone away from home to them and spanked them. And we were just saying before this, but I feel 4-1 and we were wasteful. How is it not 7 or 8? The XG is only 3.77. I don't know how these stats are made up because, I don't want to spoil it. Just so, my TLDR was a great performance. I will say, even though we were wasteful, I still feel like the attacking play and the transitions and sustaining attacks, that's the thing we haven't seen in previous games. And it was really good today. And I don't think we've even played 10 games yet under Maresca, certainly not 10 league games. And we've put in a performance like that. So HMS piss the league. I'm on board. Nothing stops this train. Let's go, Enzo.
Anchors up.
Yeah. It looks like it's coming up again. It's shout out to again. And for his graphic as well.
There's Rogers down there in the corner.
Yeah.
That's good enough. But yeah, in terms of that, Mike, again, it just the way that we started the game from, 21 seconds in. I know you did a podcast you were mentioning as well. You did a podcast and you mentioned about, look, let's get Jamie Vardy back in that starting lineup. And you were probably most delighted. But out of you coming into this game, you didn't have a good feeling about this one.
So I was definitely nervous about the game overall because Southampton, they're definitely, a formidable opponent. They had a pretty good transfer window. I know they lost a lot of talent, but they brought some good people in. They still have good players like Carlos Alcaraz, for example. I was very scared of him because he's a very dangerous player. But yeah, I mean, what a turnaround from how I felt as the game kicked off to, literally 22, 23 seconds in. And the rant that I had about Vardy is that I've seen some things online, some Twitter personalities, some other podcasts that are writing him off. They're doing comparisons, rank these in their prime and this, that, and the other thing. And I've commented on every single one. And I said, I will take Jamie Vardy every single time. And, oh man, it's good to feel some justification.
He was outstanding though today. It's not just for the goal. His hold-up play,
his layoffs,
his leading of the play, his all-round game. He was leading the press. That was vintage Vardy. And I don't know if you saw the press conference earlier in the week, but Enzo was saying that basically what he'd spent the time away with the players that were still there was working on the final third, like the weight of the pass, the right decision at the right time. And look, to be honest with you, I think naturally proves it at the end there, right? Vardy is still the most clinical player, to be honest with you, we've ever had. I didn't see Lineker in his prime. I'm old, but not that old. So in my lifetime, Tony Conte was pretty clinical, actually. He was surprisingly good for his age and stuff like that. But Vardy, yeah, everyone talks about his pace, but I always felt under Brendan Rodgers even, he proved that he didn't even need his pace anymore. The reason why he's so good is that he's a very intelligent footballer, right? And he makes the right runs at the right time. He gets in the good chances. And I actually believe in the last 10 years, he's outperformed his XG better than any other player, including even Messi or something like that. Probably the last few seasons, I think he might have underperformed last season for the first time ever. Probably where we went down, to be honest. But that just shows you how good he was. So yeah, I want to say that good on you for arguing all of those things. And yeah, it just goes to show you that the guy he's a class act, right? And when he plays that well, his team player didn't score today. And yeah, if he'd have stayed on for the whole game, I think he would have been a contender for man of the match. Maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but I think I was really impressed with his all-round game today.
Yeah, I think he was fantastic as well. And also he took his goal it was vintage Jamie Vardy.
Yeah,
and the fact he's going over to the crowd again is it was brilliant. It was like, this is what we needed. We needed him to come back for this one. And even then, 4 minutes in, I can't remember who it was now, but
Dewsbury Hall.
Southampton, Dewsbury Hall, they were all over the place.
I gotta say, I don't know about you, do. I was a bit worried about that though, because when you're totally on top of a game like that, we could literally have wrapped up the game in that first 5 minutes, and we should have. Like, I think it's maybe not said enough, but Dewsbury Hall has underperformed quite a lot this season. I think we've got to be honest, right? Like, Ndidi, who I'm sure we'll come on to again, was great today, but he didn't get hauled off. But why is KDH playing like the whole game? Like, and these are important moments. Like, we've gone ahead, but as we'll come on to, there were still some nervy moments in the game, although I do feel after we conceded, we basically took control of the game. But yeah, I mean, I was jokingly texting Neil after he scored the first one, 8 to go. After he scored the second goal, like 7 to go. And honestly, after that chance went in, I was thinking, oh my God, we might actually 9-0 them. And I think if we would have got that second one, even that would have been on. So maybe a bit critical there. Look, at the end of the day, at least he worked the keeper. He got it on target. It was great play from the team. But I think you've got to be more clinical there, right? And he's got to be working on that. That was a pretty easy chance, I think.
I definitely think so. And just coming on to that again, because I want to touch on a little bit of the negatives first, because there's so many other positives to talk about. But in the first 8 to 10 minutes, I think Doyle could have easily been on a yellow, and potentially close to sending off. I mean, he amended it in the second half, which is great. But that first half, Doyle didn't look.
But those are Man City fouls, do you not think? Like, I think so much of our team did that today. And the thing is that, like, Fernandinho, yeah, Mike, you're laughing, right? So you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was even a stat saying that actually in a certain area of the field, Man City had 4 times as many fouls as any other team in Europe when they were in the prime for Guardiola. And that's the same thing. So when you make a challenge there, like if you're a ref and it's early on in the game, you're like, I can't really book him for that. It's too early, but it's an obvious booking and you get away with it. So until the refs wise up and stuff like that, like, it's all for it. And I would say that's a defensive tactic. And if you can get away with it, which we can do, then do it and get smart to it. And that breaks up the play. Like, I think if you had to like build this game down to the summary, it's that like both teams made mistakes playing it out from the back, but Leicester kind of, I wouldn't say got away with it, could handle it when things went wrong. And Southampton just couldn't. And actually, I don't know if you've ever seen the underlying data, but like for Russell Martin, basically every team that he's gone to, this has been an issue for them. And and that's why he hasn't really, like, he's never achieved promotion or anything like that. I think there's a lot to admire from him. I'll come to that later. But yeah, that was a summary. And so I know what you're saying, Neil, about the foul and everything like that. But I think we're going to see a lot of that this season. And I think it's a smart thing to do. And we've got a deep squad. So unlike other teams, it doesn't even matter if like players get bookings and stuff like that. We just pump out the next defender off the bench and they can get a booking instead. I mean, do it.
Dark arts.
Yeah, and that's what we've not been good at, I think, this season as well. And again, he did for their goal again for the 2-1. You're thinking, oh, Doyle should have done better with that one as well, Mike. But I think after that, what did you make of the back three? Because I know you're a big Vestergaard fan. This first time we saw
really?
Vestergaard, Doyle, and JJ. So what do you make of the back three just in general today in the game?
Well, you saw the positive influence of the James Justin pace. I mean, look at that gilt edge chance that he broke up single-handedly with the last-ditch tackle. So I knew that Enzo would give him a chance. There was no way that Enzo was going to have a player like that in his roster, and he wasn't going to utilize him. So I love the change up there. And again, whatever anyone wants to say about Vestergaard, he played 10 games under a manager that destroyed this club, and I don't think that's a fair assessment of any player. And you see how cool he is on the ball. I mean, he's letting players run right up to him before he just kind of slinks back and dishes the ball to the keeper or somebody. I mean, that's obviously why Suter isn't playing in his place.
Yeah, it's because he was a defensive midfielder was when he started, and he's got that composure. There's something I just wanted to touch upon there. You mentioned about the Justin thing. Yeah, so tactically, there was something interesting in this game. So actually, he didn't play at left back, right? He played as the right centre back stroke right back. Ricardo was the left back inverting in. And I don't know if you saw, but quite early on in the game, from a tactical point of view, I got to say I wasn't aware of this, but Southampton, even though they like to control possession and generally keep it along the floor, they do quite often go for that long diagonal, and they were trying to hit Ryan Christie on the diagonal. And I don't know if you saw, but like every time that like he was getting free, Justin had his eyes on him and he was like, no, you're not getting past me. Now, I think Ryan Christie made his debut for them, so they probably had another player doing it in their previous game. But point is that like that was something that clearly we had worked on and we'd selected a team for it. And they didn't really do that much of it. Although I do have to give Southampton some credit. I think his name's Kalamadine Sulemana. When he came on, that tactic started working for them a bit better. He was quite skillful, and maybe Justin was getting a bit injured. But look, he still did the job, and that meant that was never a route in. And then because like, yeah, the way that they play is kind of similar to Leicester in a sense that what they do is keep control of the ball for a long time. Then you get frustrated, someone jumps, it makes a gap, and when that gap's in, boom, you look for the pre-orchestrated, pre-rehearsed routine, you pass that in and all of a sudden you can make a chance. But you know, luckily Enzo watches a lot more games than we do, and he knew about it, and he was like, no. And then, yeah, they must obviously have a quick player as well. So he goes, yeah, I need someone. And you know what's interesting, actually? I know we like to cuss Rodgers, rightly so, by the way. I'm not going to defend him at all. But I do remember against Spurs, during COVID, we beat them. And he did something similar where he put against Heung-min Son, he put JJ in the team as well. And JJ did the same thing, and he just basically bossed him out of the game. And we won that game, I think, like 2-3-0, something like that. So yeah, he's proven that he's good at getting wingers, you know, in their pocket. So we've got nothing to fear with Mo Salah, right, in a few games' time. So.
Completely different test that is. I'm actually really looking forward to that game as well. So in terms of that, I think we got Ryan in the comments actually. Yeah, yes, I've amended it, mate, and I've amended it. I've got it's the 4-1 now. Loads of things to do before we go live. But yeah, I think at one point you mentioned that about JJ and Sulemana on that left-hand side. The fact that at times, the first time we got away from him thinking, oh my God, here we go. After that, I think JJ had him in his back pocket. He goes, right, I know how to play you now. And that's a sign of somebody that's really is experienced beyond his years. The fact that somebody can come into the team and go, right, on this right-hand side, you're not getting past me. I'm going to try and try and push you off the ball and things like that. And
that was the JJ of old, though, wasn't it? Like, because he was pretty poor. We get it. Like, you can't really have a go at JJ, right? Gets injured, comes back, gets injured, comes back. It's not the same player. What a surprise, right? He's obviously needed that time away, but that way that he was being on his defensive side was like when he was at his very best. And these are two players that have both played in the Premier League as well. They're not even just, I mean, they are championship players now, but you know what I mean? So that's a good test. So yeah, you're totally right. Full credit to him. He had a very solid game to JJ. And it looks like he's all right with that injury at the end, because I don't know about you, but I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I was.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Just to bring Luke back on. Luke, thank you so much for coming on again. For coming on for the first time again, great to have on. Just coming on to one of the points we talked about. So we've talked about the first goal, talked about the and the second goal as well. McAteer's run was absolutely sublime. For somebody 21 years old, bearing in mind he's not even played in League One level, he's played at League Two level, and he's coming in and doing that. And Vardy's run behind, I think we were just mentioning it at the beginning. It was such good play from all round. But McAteer, what a way to get your third Leicester goal now.
Is he our top scorer?
Yes, probably, isn't he?
So I think we're top of the league, only lost one game, and Casey McAteer is our top scorer. That's who's getting the shirt. I got to say, I don't know about you, he is so impressive, right? He's got hard work. His decision making is really good. He affects the game. He's got passion for the club, obviously, because he's been here with us. I know people love to see like the new signings and stuff like that. But I sometimes think that like when one of these youth academy products comes through, it's actually more exciting because they know what it means, and you know they'll feel more for the club. So I'm a bit surprised that he keeps getting hauled off. Like, you know, Ndidi just spurned that opportunity in case McAteer gets yanked off. Maybe it's to quote unquote protect him, but I don't think he did anything wrong in the whole game. No. The contrary, for me, he was like man of the match until he went off. You know, just an opinion.
There's quite a few players that we'll probably get into later on potential man of the match. But
yeah,
in terms of that, Luke, what do you think about the second goal and how McAteer going to run in the finish?
Mate, I thought it was beautiful. He's looking some player, and I'm loving how we're having all these. Like, we're going to have to compete for this spot on the right wing, and he's absolutely smashing. You can't argue with it, but you've still got Marcel, Fatawa. Like, we've got a lot of options right now. Like, this is a great problem to have, especially with a big long championship season ahead of us.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a really good stuff that, again, we were doing, especially in that first half. But it's important to mention some of the things I've noted down that probably won't be on the highlight reel. Mavadidi nearly put it in our own net. There was times where Hermansen had to bail us out in the first half early on. There was all sorts of little mistakes here and there that I think in the grand schemes, obviously it won't matter, but the things we have to get, it was almost at times, Mike, where we were like Southampton, like, no, we're going to mess up more than you. And at times, even though our style of play was better, at times it was like we were like, what is going on here? We just need to get it forward and get it out, because at times, multiple times, I was thinking, right, we're on edge. God, this is going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I mean, we almost tried to hold my beer with Southampton, you know. But when you're talking about like some of the mistakes that I saw, one thing, Ricardo, he looked a little off at times, especially earlier in the game. His touches, he couldn't control the ball. His passing maybe wasn't, decision making wasn't there, and in general, I think he worked on that, but it was just it was one of those things where you're talking about that chance where Hermansen had to come out of the net and he kind of like stutter stepped, and the Southampton player, if they touch that, it goes in. But there's all, like you said, there's these little fine tunings that still need to happen, where everyone's a human being and people make mistakes, but it seemed most of them were coming when they were doing that, fizzing the ball into somebody, and then they were trying to gain control. It happened to Vardy where he got fouled, they weren't calling it. It happened to Ricardo. It happened to Winks. So that's. It seems like that's the crux where most of the mistakes are coming from.
Yeah, and again, we're saying that.
Plus, though, can I just say that? Yeah, go on. No, I'll say that. Like, don't forget though, it's a big game, right? Like, maybe on paper you don't think it is, but what game is tougher than Southampton away for us this season? There's probably only one, which is Leeds. So in the back of your mind, plus we've just lost our last game. If you lose 2 in a row, all of a sudden, it's the ship is starting to sink. The league isn't looking so strong. So, I think that people are only human. It was I think Hermansen, that's the most nervous I've seen for him in like the first half. He didn't seem so affected later. And some of these young players are gonna get it. But you're right, Mike, to call out Ricardo. Like, he's one of our most experienced. But even a player like that, if it's a big match, they're gonna get affected. I do think it's interesting, though, that you're right, that basically every game we play, that is the way that you beat Leicester, is you try and rob either Harry Winks or Ricardo. And because it's the Championship, it's more physical. So there are definitely some things that won't get blown that definitely would do. And we go, like, it's going to happen more times this season. I think we've been lucky to get away with it. Maybe in some ways it's good practice for when we go back up, which I personally think is more likely now, because it'll be a bit more lenient on us. But I think, for example, like, I wouldn't be surprised if you saying that will be like one of those meme clips that gets posted after every single game, because like it's going to happen. I bet every single game, especially every single one we'll lose, it will be that like, someone robbed the ball from Ricardo or Harry Winks and they couldn't deal with the physicality. Yeah.
And also just playing that different position as well. But another player, again, thing that had a really underrated, well, I won't say underrated, but if you watch the game, I think he had a fantastic game on and off the ball. Wilfred Ndidi. I'm surprised he was the first one that got hauled off, but got taken off. The first one that got taken off. But for me, he was up there with Luke as one of the man of the matches, because in that first half, he wasn't just the runs he was making into the box was fantastic. He's playing out with his feet for the third goal. I went, who is this player? Where has he come from? Ndidi was fantastic in that game.
He's like a new man. Like, I'm starting to get to the point where we can't even call him a square peg in a round hole anymore, because it was a bit more to the left on this side, I noticed, but like that touch he took at the last second, that was just plain rude. That was very Jamie Vardy-esque. Like, at first I was like, maybe he should have just shot it straight away. Took that touch, banged it in the net. I was just like, you champion. That was awesome.
I thought he was fantastic. Yeah, Mike, I don't know if you thought of that as well, because for me, it was fantastic in this game.
Well, I know there were some people I was seeing on Twitter that were saying, maybe Cassidy should be getting the start. And while I'm not expecting offensive output that I would get from Cassidy, Wilf does very well high press up the field when we get up, and he's causing a lot of chaos for teams. So I'm trying to defend his start, and then he goes and does that. I mean, I texted you earlier in the season. I said Wilf Toure or Yaya Ndidi, something like that.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going true. He's just looking better and better in terms of that. And we go into the game. I think that's how we need to go in, Anno, in terms of the game. Go into the game at half time. We're at 3-1 up. I mean, we were in dreamland at that point. I think at that point, I've got 3.5 pages of notes just on the first half. Like just I was like, this is brilliant, but it could have even been more.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I mean, there are lots of things. I mean, I think with Ndidi as well, and just coming back to him versus Cassidy, I think those people asking for Cassidy to start, they definitely have a point, because sometimes the move does break down with Wilfred. That did still happen a few times in the first half. Like, I seem to remember like someone playing a diagonal to him, and it was quite easy to control it, and he just like fumbled it out of play. A few times he's not so good at turning in the pocket. But I think the other thing to remember is that he's a monster at winning the ball back. And so the thing is that playing him a bit further up the field in some ways is even better, because you can turn over the ball faster and then start the attacks. So in this game, it didn't happen so much, but I've seen in other games that sometimes some of our best chances happen because he's around the ball and he either wins it back or he creates enough pressure so someone else wins it. And then because we play that beautiful 1-2 pop, 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 we make the chance out of it. So the Cassidy doesn't offer that, for example. I would definitely, if the two of them arriving in the box late, I would put my money more on Cassidy than Ndidi. But you're right, like, yeah, to call him that is no longer a square peg in a round hole. I mean, that is a proper finish, right? He was really unlucky not to score another one, right? So it comes to him and he has like a great drive at the keeper. I think it was before he scored that one. And keeper makes like a good save. You're looking blank, but I'm convinced that I'm not making this up, right? He had like a
no. Yeah,
there was so much going on in the game.
It was a first-time shot.
Yeah, and it was on target. He hit it hard. Keeper was diving and stretching to get to it, so there was that too. Yeah, I remember you, but like after we conceded, I started getting nervous. But actually, I think the team just like woke up after that, because for the rest of that half, I felt that we were in total control of the game. And we were like limiting Southampton to where they got the ball and slowly turning on the pressure up and up and up. And it was good to get that goal. But I'm not going to lie, I think I texted Neil saying, I'm so glad we got it, because otherwise I felt with Doyle, you know, what was he doing really for that goal? Like, I'm all for playing it out from the back. But that isn't even playing out from the back. That's just like, if there's someone around you and you're not sure.
Mannequin challenge.
Yeah. Just smash it into like, I'm guessing he's thinking that if he leaves it, it's going to roll onto someone else to deal with and they can start the attack. But it's just like, again, it's a big game with 2 goals up against another high quality opposition. It's like, that's not the time to take chances, right? You know, I would have taken 2-0 before the game started all day, every day. I mean, as it turns out, it's an even better result, you know, especially with the performance. So yeah, a bit frustrated, but I do think we deserved it, to be honest with you. I think that we made a lot of chances, really smooth moves. Ndidi had an opportunity to score as well. I'll let the others talk. I'm sure they got better memory than me, but I kind of felt in the first half that, like, I think Mike, you said it, like we should have been like 5 or 6 up, I felt. And I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that.
No, it was a very intense first half. And the one thing that, you know, I would say about the overall first half performance going into the second half was you got to feel like the halftime team talk changed after that Wilf goal, because it's 2-1, things are getting a little shaky. Maybe players are not doing the things the manager wants them to do, and then you get that pressure taken off. And I mean, both managers, I'm sure, had a last minute change up for what they were going to say in that halftime room.
Yeah, potentially, but that was literally really nicely for my second point, where there's part of that, but also we've seen, Luke, that teams have started, Leicester City have started slow, especially in the second half, and they've started, they weren't quite woken up quite as much. In this game, Southampton had lots of possession of the ball. I think I've got some of the stats here in terms of when they came out, but it didn't really phase Leicester too much. In terms of when they came out the second half, it was just, I wouldn't say wave after wave Southampton. They had possessions of the ball. Leicester didn't have much, but for once, we actually looked composed, we looked confident, we looked controlled, and this is something that we've wanted to see for quite a while, and I'm really glad to see it.
100%. I think that whole game, like the second half, that's been a big issue, coming out, starting really slow and conceding a goal, or even late at the end of the first half. But I didn't feel like that at all this time. I feel like we came out for blood. And let me say this as well. Don't forget, this is another Premier League side that we just beat. Okay, we've got a long season ahead, but compared to what we've been to, like you were saying before, you felt a bit nervous. I know, like I've never felt nervous once this whole season except the Liverpool game, and that was a friendly. Like, even though we lost the Hull, I didn't feel like we lost compared to what we've been through last season. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you can see what we're building towards.
Yeah.
And considering we've got nearly a brand new team, new manager, like, I'm completely all aboard the Enzo hype train right now. I really got a lot of faith in him. He's turning these young academy players and all these young signings into killers.
Yeah, he's just absolute ball as well. I'll get some of the subs later on, but it was fantastic the way he managed to make that as well. And his first sub as well was really, for me, quite surprising. The fact that he took Ndidi off, because I was like, that was a surprise for me. And then he put Casadei on to kind of shore out the game.
Is that a surprise? I feel like Casadei is like his illegitimate son or something like that. Like, in a good way.
He would have started him.
No, I think he's being eased in. Like, I mean, at the same time, I think people are quite disrespectful to Ndidi. He has like 50 plus caps for Nigeria. He's played in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. He came over to us when he was 19, when we were like in the shitter that season after winning the title, and he turned it around and basically turned out to be a more than adequate Kante replacement. Of course, Kante is like a GOAT, one of the greatest players of all time, but I don't think we're going to sign many players better than him, to be honest with you, in terms of replacing that. So, what I'm saying is experience counts. And so Casadei might be the future, but Ndidi is definitely a big part of the present, and it's good that we have him. Just quickly, I want to say about like with the second half, I do think this is really worth mentioning, is that a lot of people have criticized Enzo for not having a plan B. But in this game, we clearly did have a plan B, because in the second half, we counterattacked, right? The second half, they had way more possession. There were a lot of stats in game showing how like 50% of the action was in our third and stuff like that. That's unlike any other game that we've played this season. And yet, to quote Luke, never really felt like we were in trouble, right? It was deliberate. We went more to the 4-3-3 shape instead of like the inverted fullbacks, because we weren't in the ball so much. And we were looking for the counter. And those counters were coming off time and time again. It was basically like a throwback to 15-16. And I'm sure you're going to come on to like the most frustrating and yet brilliant player at the same time with what he got up to. But I guess what I'm saying, what gives me confidence is that means that like he's not just a one-trick pony. He is prepared to change it. He knew that the game was basically one. We could kind of see it out. And look, we've got Liverpool coming up in a bit, right? And the last time we played them, as you mentioned, it didn't go too well, which was understandable, even though we had like a good 20 minutes. So maybe we will play more of the counter against them. And this makes me think that, like, you know, we can still do a lot of damage playing that way. And it was good. And yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I feel Russell Martin got absolutely schooled today. It doesn't help when your team concedes after 21 seconds, that I will say. So that is like a bit unfair to anyone. It's like, you know, it's like Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right, when you're boxing. So there you go. But yeah, I just think it's really worth touching upon that. And then, yeah, I think Casadei's coming on at 60 every single game, to be honest with you. Maybe it's even part of the loan deal agreement with Chelsea, but I don't have a problem with it. Like, yeah, Wilfred may be a bit unlucky to come off, but he's done his bit. It's a squad game. You can make 5 subs. Personally, I think if we don't make 5 subs in a game, it's a waste. Like, you know, give those minutes to players. Give Ben Nelson 5 minutes. Give Wanya another run out. You know, Fatawu and Yunus got like maybe 10, 15 minutes. I thought they both made a decent impression on the game, you know. Make them feel part of something. Give them their dues. And yeah. But yeah, I would say that Wilf had an amazing game. And so if it was like, why me, when KDH has kind of missed one, and, you know, I would say fair enough. But luckily we know Wilf's not that type of person.
No, I think he's part of that squad player as well. So definitely the case. And again, this is the part we'll have to come on to again just before Mavadidi's missing 2 goals. Just after that as well. What was it called? Armstrong absolutely missed a sitter for 60 minutes around there as well. Something just to mention, because that will get looked over a little bit more. So many moments like that in this game. And one of the other moments, obviously, with Vardy, Mavadidi's crying out for the ball. McAteer earlier in the first half, and then the second half again didn't pick Vardy up, and Jamie Vardy was not pleased, was he, Luke? The fact, but like you would have thought about all the wingers, he's probably the one with the most experience that's going to play regular minutes. It's a little bit surprising especially when Enzo was mentioning in the press conference they've been working on the final third. So I bet you he's not happy about that situation because it could have been a lot more goals.
It could have been a lot more goals, and he definitely redeemed himself. And in my opinion, he's definitely got the most flair, and he's pretty much the main man, the left-hand side. if he didn't score that second goal, he would be getting absolutely rinsed online right now. But he scored it, so yeah, he should have scored. He should have squared it to Vardy. But look, I reckon it's within his right of how many chances he creates and how dangerous he is to take a shot on goal. So I'm not overly critical about that.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it was just at the time. If he missed the third one, we all would have been gone here absolutely raging, even if we won 3-1. But he took his goals super well as well. And just onto that, Mike, in terms of the way that he managed to take the goal, Sulemana gives it away, and it's just the Mavididi show at that point. Even though the player outside, like, right, I've got eyes. Because if he misses that, we're all absolutely, Twitter's going mental. Everything's having a complete meltdown, even though we're 3-1 ahead. But I think considering he's missed the 2 goals, he didn't let that get to him, and he kept going. And I think that was what's really important to get part of this squad in terms of even the mentality of once it goes wrong, okay, that's fine. We've got to keep sticking to the plan because we will get there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something we've seen him do a couple times this season. You've seen him on corners, especially opposing team set pieces. He seems to be that focal point for the outlet. And I can't remember who it was against, but he did the thing where he like kicked the ball ahead and ran and caught it and went all the way up the field by himself and was running the clock down. So this is definitely something that's in his locker where he has a good awareness when he's the last man and he can use his pace. But like you said, if he did not score there, he is getting absolutely destroyed on the internet. And I know that Enzo will be saying something to him because, Enzo has too much pep in him to let something like that go. So he's going to be getting a little bit of a pasting from the manager. But I do like what you said about the confidence because you even saw it from Fatawu when he came in. He kept trying to go by players. And that's a directive from the manager that's saying, go for it, especially if we're up like we were. And just he wants to see these attempts. He wants to see what, is being actually gotten across to them from all the training and all the practice that they're doing. So I love to see that, the confidence that the players have and the willingness to shirk off maybe some unpleasant or non-satisfactory attempts earlier in the game to force themselves on.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And the thing is, even after that point you're mentioning, I think Enzo got a yellow just after that as well, before he took his goal. So it showed you that again, Enzo, I've not seen Enzo. I didn't actually see what happened because I was watching it online, but
wasn't that the Dewsbury Hall getting? I thought it's for the penalty. I think that he did it because
flattened.
Yeah, that should have been a penalty. It looked pretty clear cut to me. And then he played advantage, and then we didn't score. And it's like, yeah, but like put it this way, in the Premier League, I think VAR calls that back and gives us the penalty. But although I've got to say, to be honest with you, something that I do think is better about the Championship is you don't have that. So it's just like, nah, keep going. Play to the whistle. It's a bit more pure in that respect, I would say.
Yeah. No, I hear you there. But even then, Luke, the way we managed the game out second half, and also we went from that at times, even with Fatawu at the back, he was playing right wing back. We were playing like a back five with it was kind of like a 5-4-1 almost formation. And considering in the first half where we let Southampton kind of overrule us at times, we managed the game out. The game management that we've talked about, last season, it was completely lacking. This season, even though we've got that same Southampton attack that looked like they were tiring towards the game, the Olays were coming out. The team was just playing a really great version of football where we were just saying, yeah, we're going to see this game out. And we've not seen that in such a long time.
In so long. It's such a nice breath of fresh air. Like, I love it. All the subs, triple change, and also I'm surprised how long Vardy stayed on. For the most part, it's been usually he's been subbed on usually around the 60, 70 mark, but he actually played like nearly 80, I think it was like 81 minutes he got subbed out. I'm not sure the actual time, but he was on for a fair while, and I think the management's been brilliant. It's also enforcing and the competitiveness, challenging for the spot as well, it gives more people a chance to show their skills and put themselves on the map.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. So, yeah, it just tells that one. Anybody else got any thoughts about any of that? Because, again, the game management was fantastic.
Yeah, great to see. I think you're totally right. Go on, Mike, Ali speak, yeah.
Oh, no, just very quickly. I just wanted to say the one thing about the game management was even at, I had a note here, at the end of the first half, LCFC held the ball, made an incisive move to end the half. With a goal on purpose. I mean, you saw them. There was a moment where it looked like they were going to burst forward, And then I think it might have been Winks or somebody. He was like almost in a left back position, and he's calling for the ball, and then they slowed it down, and they incisively like decided that they were going to force the ball up the field. Now, under Brendan Rodgers, I don't know what the heck they would have done. I don't know if they would have just tried to hold it in our own corner and then launch it up the field and chase it. But I mean, that was just a beautiful example of the difference in the game management between this manager and Rodgers.
Yeah. And you want to go because you want to say something as well.
My thunder's been well and truly stolen.
Oh, no.
No, it's great. That's great. I'm glad you pointed it out. I very much agree. That's a really important aspect. As I was saying about taking control of the game, and it was very deliberate. So it's not just conceding possession, but it's actually doing it in a tactical way, in some ways, in order to open them up a little bit more. And we got our reward from it. And we've got intelligent players, and they understand this aspect of the game. And that's quite tricky. Like I think to see that maturity in the team already is quite incredible, to be honest, because I still see, like, you know, we let's call a spade, right? Like up until now, I think it's fair to say that we still did get lucky with a lot of the results that we got. We probably didn't deserve to have as many points as we did, but you've got two types of people: the glass half full. I'm definitely one of those, and the glass half empty, right? The glass half full was that, yeah, but look at all these great moments, and it takes time to build a team, and we've got all these new players. You can clearly see where it's going. And the other half's like, no, it's rubbish. It's Brendan ball. It's pool ball. It's crap. Go direct. Like, why don't we play like Liverpool did in 2019? It's because the football kind of meta game has moved on to, like, whatever, you know. So, you know, that is a fact to say that, though. But this time round, right, the coach has already got the players not only playing that style, but the thing that was missing is like that maturity with the decision making, and like when to press the button and when not to press the button. Like, this is something that he said a lot, like why it's not just like PlayStation football, right? It's a 90-minute game. You can't attack for 90 minutes. You got to pick your moments. You got to do it as a team. And that is so difficult to get with players, because like sometimes when you watch our moves, it's absolutely beautiful, because it's not just one player making a run. It's like Luke and Mike come back this way, I go that way. Neil plays the ball to me as I'm making the run, and we do it to perfection so that I'm isolated one-on-one. Like we almost did that with Ndidi. I don't know if you saw it. It's like a copy of like the of the Dennis Pratt move. It didn't quite work out, but he almost got through. And it's like when you see things like that, like trust me, if you want to coach that to real players, it's fucking hard, excuse my language, right? Because that's like 4 separate movements plus the timing, and you have to do it all at the time. And there's so much that could go wrong. If you get it right, that you can't defend against it. That's the thing, right? So we've got that. And yeah, I'm delighted that you've called out that like we've got that maturity to kind of get there. Maybe the only concern I would say is you said it was Harry Winks there. Absolutely. Like he's the best player in the division. Let's not kid ourselves. Like why is he even in the championship? Who knows? Like we've got him.
Enzo.
But a lot of Yeah. But I mean, a lot of friends have been saying it, and I agree with them. Like, it's not even that he should be in the Premier League. Like, seriously, he could be at like Villa or Brighton or someone like that, or West Ham. Like, he's good enough to be doing that, right? Like, he's a class player, and it's because it's not just he's good technically, right? But he knows when to do it, what to do it. Yeah. And I didn't get it that way. So, all right, I'll shut up now because in case you haven't noticed, once I start, I don't stop. So yeah, sorry.
We love it.
No, I think you're right there as well. And also, yeah, I'm with you where he could definitely get into a good start. And it shows you the pull of Enzo. And just as well as that, bearing in mind something that I was going to mention earlier as well, we still have Fast to come back into the team. We still have Cody to come back into that team as well. We've still got potentially with Ndidi and McAteer starting, you've still got Fatal to come back into the team. You've got so many players that could still improve the squad, and we don't get weaker because of it. They keep that same level and play at that same intensity, which I think is phenomenal. Even with, I think, Vestergaard today, I think that's his best game for Leicester City I've seen. He was fantastic today, Luke, playing in that position. But he was calm, he was composed. When things were kind of going wrong with Doyle, Vestergaard was there to, again, crunching challenges. He was managing that back line so well, because considering what Southampton were throwing at us.
I am his biggest critic. That is the best game that we've ever seen in Leicester with a Leicester shirt on. That tackle in the left-hand side of that box. They just absolutely just pumped him. That was awesome. I got hype after that. But that his ball disposal was perfect. He was calm, put a lot of challenge, a lot of stops. He was absolutely brilliant tonight. And we've, like you said, we've still got Connor Cody to come back. And like it's going to be hard now. Of course, we're probably going to ease him back in because he's, just coming back from an injury. But Vestergaard hasn't put a foot wrong, and he's been getting a little bit better every game. And this is a great problem to have. To have this depth in the championship is just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's cheating. Let's be honest.
It is.
I think it's Neil who told me this. Was it you that said that like you're actually angry every time you see a game this season because you're like, how is this team in this league? Like they're way too good for it. And well, maybe it's not you, but all right, fair enough. So, someone said that to me, and I do kind of agree with them because, like, again, as per the point, this team beat us twice last year. We were in the Premier League, right? We only went down basically for 1 point, missing a penalty against Everton. Anything can happen. By that, we would have probably stayed up if that goes in. And yeah, it's like, this supposedly is a team that's close to us in quality. It didn't look close to me on the pitch today, is what I'm saying. Like, you got to say, after seeing that, Southampton should be worried about Hull and Coventry from what I've seen. They're way better than Southampton were.
True today, I think, both of them too.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. They're close team.
Sorry, mate. I just want to say that I'm super happy that we're not doing. I didn't want to stay. Like, seeing how we're going now, it's probably good that we went down. Blessing in disguise. All these young players in the youth academy, you would be seeing them get a run out or a start, and that if we do go up the first time asking, which I think we are, these players might go on loan elsewhere. We might get money for them because now they've proved themselves under Leicester, or they're just going to keep progressing under Enzo. Like, what a coach he is. He's turning all of these players, he's improving them. It's not like Rodgers where we're taking a back step. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think that we wouldn't be able to develop the players under Enzo's style and system as comfortably if we were in the Premier League right now. I think this is perfect. Everyone's going to get their confidence up, and they're going to go up to the Premier League ambitious with a point to prove.
I love it. Luke is a glass 3/4 full type of a guy.
Yes.
But for what it's worth, I actually agree with you. We wouldn't have got that, and we would not. If we'd have tried to play this style with a new team in the Premier League, I can tell you what it'd be played 5, lost 5, goals scored probably 2, goals against 10. So it's a perfect opportunity to learn a system.
Yeah, and
100%.
To Luke's credit, I just want to say that, when you go down, we're clearing out a lot of the dead wood. We still have more to get rid of, don't get me wrong, but there was a significant clear out already. And then you have the richest game in football. So when you go up and you get all this money, then you can really, you think they backed Enzo this summer? Can you imagine what he's going to get if we go up, or we automatic promotion or playoff, whatever have you? That's 100 million, 150 million pounds that they're getting injected into the team.
Mm-hmm. And FFP window closes as well. I don't know how it actually works, but that window is closed over that period of time, so we actually get the extra money coming into that. And just as mentioning, the McAteer's our number 1 scorer, not even played in the top 3 divisions of English football, and he's our top scorer. The goals are being shared all over the pitch as well. And there's still a lot more. Again, we're only 10-20% into this system. It's almost unbelievable.
Hasn't played in the top flight yet.
Top 3 divisions he's not played in until this season. Wow. He scored 3 goals.
Wow. Yeah.
He's playing in League 2.
We said it before, but I think he deserves, again, praise from us. Like, he's the breakthrough player so far. It's not just because he's the top scorer. It's his all-round game. He's been tried in multiple positions as well. He's played right wing, left wing, sometimes as the attacking midfielder. He's got the right attitude, you can see as well. That's what I love to see, is that, like, honestly, it's quite refreshing seeing him play compared to some of the people last year who clearly didn't play. Like, we'll always remember what Tielemans did for us, but last season there were a lot of times where he literally stopped running. Let's not cry over spilt milk, but I always think that, like, do you know what? Even if you concede a goal and it's like a terrible goal to concede, if you see someone running back and they try to make a challenge and they look upset about it, at least you're like, look, fair play, you're a professional and you've at least tried, right? And you're not quite good enough to handle Mo Salah beating you for pace. Fair play, right? But when you just can't even be bothered, it's like, come on, like, that's just, you're disrespecting yourself, the fans. So yeah, seeing a player like that who is just like, he'll be like, I'll play goalkeeper for you, boss, if you're going to let me play for Leicester. I don't even care. I'll be Philbert the Fox today, just going around the ground, shooting out the T-shirts in the cannon. You see that enthusiasticness, and it's great to see him there.
Yeah, I think it's spot on there. just a couple of bits as well. And obviously he made the 3 substitutions, which I thought was interesting at 84 minutes. Wasn't all defensive. It wasn't going right. We're going to stick to fleet at the back. First thing he changes is Jamie Vardy for Iheanacho again at 84 minutes. Somebody was saying earlier the fact that they get that. Wings for Chowdhury again, that made sense. Kind of give Wings a bit of a break. Get Chowdhury on to kind of secure the midfield. And the last one he made, he takes KDH off. Which I thought was surprising. He puts Atkin in his place. So Atkin was playing one of those number 8 positions, which I just thought was again, and it just clicked. And I was thinking, he's only been with us half the time. He's been over to go. He went back to Turkey to play for the national team, which is more than fine for me. And then he's coming and playing number 8 when he was originally a winger. I'm just like,
no, he has played that before. Not a Galatasaray, the club before that. Is it called
Spore or something?
Yeah. Like that's the point. Is he's versatile. And I would say as well that him, I think McAteer is like this as well. They are quite good with like the 1-2s and the through balls and things like that. That's like, if I had to describe a difference between Yunus and Fatawu, who I think we should also talk about, by the way, I think he was extremely impressive for the 10 minutes he was on. Right, Fatawu he's probably the best man beater in the entire squad that we've got. Like I would be terrified to play against someone like him. You know, you're just going to get embarrassed, right? He's fast, he's quick, left foot, right foot. He's got power on the shot, good decision making. I feel like Yunus can do that, but he's a bit like McAteer. He's more like he's going to beat you with his brain than with his feet. That's not a bad thing per se. If anything, that can be even more deadly because the thing is, it's like what you do, right? Do I go to him? Do I stay in my place? If I go to him, he could beat me for pace or dribble around me. If I don't, he'll pass it between me. Oh, now he's on the wing. He's not there instead. It's like, basically, if you look at Man City, it's why, for example, they phased out players like Sane and Mahrez and started going for players like Grealish, Bernardo Silva and Foden, who's like, are they an 8 or are they a 7 or are they a 10? Are they all of them? They're just frigging good players that are interchangeable. And so that's why I don't think it's that much of a surprise. Also, though, but maybe it is a surprise that like McAteer's preferred on the wing to him instead. But look, we haven't seen much of Yunus so far. But as per the point of whoever said about us having like the laughably strong squad, we do. Like you've got Turkish international that actually helped Galatasaray qualify for the Champions League. And he can only get on for 6 minutes in a game that we're 4-1 up. I mean, that's disgusting, really, isn't it?
It's plain rude. You also notice that Patson Daka, now that the transfer window's finished, he was actually on the bench. We might see him because I know that he's the third choice and he's a very frustrating player to watch, but we can't, for the money we paid for him, just go to waste. We have to put him at least somewhat in the shop window or give him an opportunity. Otherwise, we're just not going to see a return next transfer window if he's to go in terms of money. I don't know what you guys think about that and how you feel about Patson Daka.
I mean, I think Patson could probably end up serving a purpose. It just depends on how hard he wants to work. I mean, you look at Jamie Vardy, for example, and they brought Daka in to kind of be the heir apparent to Jamie Vardy. Obviously, that's not going to work out the way that they thought. But when you look at Enzo and how he's brought Vardy along into this new style of play, which I never doubted for a minute that he could do. People were calling him out all day, saying he wasn't good enough to play in that specific striker dropping in kind of role. I think that Enzo potentially could try to work the same magic with Daka. I mean, Daka's fast. If you can just work on his close control so that when they fizz that ball into him as he drops in, he can actually lay it off instead of just kick it backwards or lose the ball.
Do you know what, though? I think with Daka, I don't ever think it's been a question of Maresca not rating him as a player. I think it's that they said that the pre-season that they asked every player, do you want to be here or do you not? And, it may not even be the player themselves. It could be the agent. The agent might be like, no. I'm not having Mike be on the, LCFC official podcast. He's got to go on beyond the 90. He's got to be on the top tier one because that's how I get my payday. It's not good for the future moves. And he'd be confident that he could get you a move. And therefore, if you're playing in the preseason games and you get injured and it scuppers the move, like look what happened to Wesley Fofana, in that Villarreal game that, although luckily we managed to cash in afterwards, although it was a season later. So I think that definitely happened with Daka, which is why he's been welcomed into the fold, because I cannot believe, he's definitely not the best link-up player, but that someone like him he's in the top 3 strikers in this division. And the other 2 are probably Vardy and Iheanacho, right? There's no one's coming closer. That's an absolute joke. And we signed another striker because why not? you know, just because we're Leicester, we can do it kind of thing. But do we see him play? I don't think Maresca will have a problem playing him. He would do it if he have to, but like it's almost like, what is the point if the other two are doing well and we've got now a striker who does want to be here in Cannon, although he's injured. So yeah, I don't think it's ever been a problem like that. Like I said, that's how agents work, and some of them will be told they want to stay, some they don't. That does bring up Harry Souttar. Like, what about him? Because I don't think he was on the bench today, was he?
No.
That I think there is a bit of a difference. That I think is a player that is not rated by Maresca. I think you, Mike, mentioned how Vestergaard, you got to give him credit that he knows how to control the pace of the game. And that is something that isn't what every defender has, right? We never saw Luke Thomas play, for example, either. I think a similar thing. I don't think he was probably considered good enough for the system that Maresca wanted to play.
Yet we loaned him to a Premier League club.
Yeah, but as weird as that sounds, it makes sense because he's going to actually play a left back. Like, I think it came out midweek that Christiansen said that he basically was given the opportunity to work more as a kind of left-sided centre back. Like, Maresca did rate him enough to try that, but he wasn't going to be first choice, and it wasn't going to be the position that he played. And he was like, well, I think I'm quite a good left back. I've played in the Champions League as a left back, so I want to continue playing that position. And apparently got 2 assists on his debut for Bologna. So I don't think you can criticize the play. You got to do what's best for number one, right? Like, you know, of course, we all love Leicester because we're fans, but if you're a professional, you're like, well, I'm not being funny or anything, but I don't want to learn a new position that's not going to be applicable to me if I'm already good in this other position that I think I can make a career from. So I get that. So yeah, I think he'll be welcome back into the fold. I think I can see him getting sub appearances and stuff like that, but I'd be shocked to see Daka start a game just because, unless we get an injury crisis or something like that. And the other two have been really good. And like you said it already today, Mike, that was vintage Vardy. He played 84 minutes because he was good. Even when he came off, he didn't need to come off. They probably just wanted to make sure that everyone's getting minutes so that they can, you know, if Iheanacho, it's a bit of a shame he didn't get that goal at the end because that would have been good for his confidence, right? It's good to have your strikers, you know, in a rich run of form. But yeah, it's still that we got that there.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I was just going to roll through some of these ones as well because Enzo's just come out with his comments as well.
Oh, cool.
At the moment. So he's one thing he's come out with. Performance for me is unbelievable. On the ball work was the way we wanted to, and off the ball work we were aggressive. And I think that's not something we've seen from before. We said we've seen before, Luke, with where he's gone. Yeah, we're 10% now, we're 20% there. We're still getting there. It's the first time he's actually let himself get carried away, which I think is a nice thing to hear from a manager because he's always been quite reserved before this.
I know. I just want him to come out after that and just say that I think tonight we're about 40%, and then we can all just lose our minds and just look even more optimistically to the future. But I love Enzo, honestly. I can't stop singing his praises. I've got so much faith in where this team's going, and you can see what he's trying to do. Yeah, I got to try and contain myself and rein it in a little bit, I think.
I mean, we've got carried away. We've scored this first time as well. We've scored 4 goals, and normally we've scored a couple. We're like, how do we get away with that one? We've just about got the result. Then, Mike, coming into this one, we've got so many opportunities where we could have done a lot more than this as well. We could have had another 9-0 quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, if not for mistakes and maybe some growing pains in the system, it could have been another pasting for sure. One thing I did want to say is before kickoff, as the teams were walking out and they were showing the managers, I noticed Enzo just sitting on the bench, very calm, just kind of doing a little bit of a face rub, and Russell Martin walking around, pacing, talking to people, setting things up. While I was nervous for the start, I kind of gained some confidence from that, and I'm glad Enzo let himself go because it seemed like he already knew that he had the tactical upper hand on him. He knew that he had his he was going to eat this guy's lunch, and that's why he didn't need to be walking around. He didn't need to be talking to the players because he had already worked it out in the video room. And I was very happy to see that he kind of gave us a little bit of emotion because I'm Italian. I love, Italians are hot-headed and passionate, and to see him let himself go a little bit makes me happy.
Yeah, you're totally right to say he schooled him, though. Like I was going to say that, like, I think that game was interesting that the Southampton fans, you could tell that when they were trying to build it from the back, they were audibly booing their own team, right? Now, if you've lost your own team after like, what is it, 6 games of the 6 games of the season, and sometimes that happens at Leicester, but I feel like he is even the diehards, he's winning them over by like, okay, I can see what they're trying to do. If the fans turn on you, like people already calling him a pound shot, Brendan Rodgers, you don't know what you're doing and all this kind of stuff. I was going to say that, like, I think it comes down to the principles of the players. So before this game, what was interesting is Southampton had created the most amount of chances in the league compared to anyone. And I do think that, like, to give them some dues, some of their attacking moves that they put together were quite nice. They were quite fluid and stuff like that. But their issue is, compared to Leicester, is that the way that they build up is like way riskier. So like we do this kind of 3-2-4-1 thing. They do almost like a 2-6-2. So they invert both their fullbacks. So you've got like more triangles to play the ball with. Right. And they actually had a lot more possession in the game than we did. So remember that. That's sort of like their style that they're trying to do. But as was literally shown after 21 seconds, the thing is that when you do that, so in our system, when we give the ball away, there are gaps, right? Like people target the vacated space where Ricardo's supposed to be as being the obvious place to attack. And the other one that like Hull did was like Liam Delap got moved to play 1-on-1 versus Callum Doyle instead of the other centre backs because he knows he's going to be moving positions and he could get some joy there. So that's like the tactics he used against Leicester. But when we like lose the ball, we've still basically got 5 defensive players and 5 attacking players. We still got quite good shape and structure there. What happens with Southampton is because you've got this 2-6-2, if they lose the ball, especially in the fullbacks, they haven't just got 1 gap, they've got 2 gaps. And because they got 2 gaps, their team start rushing back to try and get it, which makes even more gaps, if that makes sense. So that's why you see, it's like, I don't know if you saw the Sunderland game prior to this one as well, but it was the same thing. It's like every time they lose the ball, they are in big trouble. And you can see like the expected goals against are also as high as their chances they create. They had the game that was 4-4 against Norwich as an example, right? Which is not maybe that much of a surprise. And, your point about, you said how Maresca probably thought, I'm here to steal your lunch money. I bet it's for that reason, because he knew that kind of coming into the game, like, you're an amateur, you don't know what you're doing and you're about to get eaten alive. I will say that whoever just said it with the quotes about the press, I think that's really worth talking. This is the best press we've played all season against any team. And I think that's why Ndidi was selected as well, even though he didn't necessarily make as many challenges as he has done in previous games. And yeah, we forced them to make those mistakes, and that got us the goal. And that was nice for us to see it there, even though we didn't dominate possession. So finally, it's just that, like, I think that Maresca was right to focus on the stability first and the attack to come later. If you even look at our signings, who did we sign? We signed Connor Cody first, even though he hasn't played. We signed Harry Winks. We signed Madsen Manson. We got these signings in early. So we got Callum Doyle. We didn't faff around with, are we going to buy him permanently or is he going to be like permanent after a while? We just get him in so we can build the foundation. First couple of weeks of the Maresca system, we have possession, but we're not really creating much. Some fans are a little bit like, oh, we're getting away with it. And as you say, today's the first day. Mr. 40% there. I totally agree with you. I agree. I think that is only 40% about how we could play. We just said we could have won the game probably 8-1 if we'd actually had our shooting boots on. So, yeah. I'm super hype as well. I'm in the glass 3/4 camp full as well. All on board.
And we are getting there. I think just final thing before we kind of finish up, because again, could talk a bit longer. Give you a couple of photos for potential ones I'm going to use for thumbnails as well, because these are going around Twitter, which are brilliant. First one's Jamie Vardy doing Jamie Vardy after he scores, which I think was just the best photo I've saw. Again, it's just typical Jamie Vardy at this point. Another one as well. There was one, I think it was after, I want to say 4-1, when it was a guy, I think it was 4-1 when Ndidi scored. I think there's someone that came on the TV as well, which I thought, again, fantastic. Which,
I'm going to use that one.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So just use that one as a thumbnail now as well, which will be fantastic. And again, there's just good play. It's just good play on the pitch. I think the final thing before we finish, again, if anybody has any thoughts, but I mean, Mike, who would be your man of the match? Because there's so many to choose from, and who would be your man of the match? And all over the pitch, that was fantastic. We've not even touched on Madsen. I think he had a good game today when he was called upon. We've not even touched on, God, who we not touched on? There's so many players we didn't touch on that we could have, but who would be your man of the match?
That is tough. For me, I would probably say Dewsbury Hall. And I know that maybe he hasn't been performing up to his level in terms of what his full potential is. If you want to, I guess, pinpoint where we won this game, it was our press, in my opinion, because it really screwed them up and they really looked shaky, at least most of the first half. Second half looked like they adjusted it some. But Dewsbury Hall was the tip of that spear. Jamie Vardy was the actual striker. He's the most high up the field. But if you look, Dewsbury Hall was always running right at the center back that was trying to hang onto the ball and stuff. And he was like the kind of the go man for the press. So if you're going to give it to somebody, I want to say, and also he had a beautiful through ball for Casey McAteer. So again, I there was many players, but I would have to say KDH for me.
Sounds good. Luke, any thoughts on man of the match as well?
Mate, to be honest, I've got written down here. I nearly went down for Vestergaard, but I have to go with Ndidi. I know he missed a few times, but he still banged that goal in, and he's, in my opinion, one of our most dangerous players taking the ball. He always takes on the defender. He's got that flair, that dribbling ability. I think I've actually got a gem there. Yes, I believe he can be frustrating with his finishing quality sometimes, but the thing is, he's getting all these opportunities, creating them. I think that we should definitely look at having him in our starting 11 regularly, and it's obvious he already is. He's the strongest option left wing. He's my man of the match.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And I'm struggling to pick one. Anil, you got any ideas as well?
I'll probably have to go with Luke. I think, you would have to give it to Ndidi, but just to sound like an edgelord, I'm going to go Harry Winks. He wears 8 on the shirt because he's 8 out of 10 every game he plays. He doesn't make mistakes. Everything is solid. He's the heartbeat of the team. Everything runs through him. He's a bit like Iniesta or Xavi in the sense that, like, at the end of the season, you're going to be like, oh, he scored like 1 goal and had 2 assists. Why is this player so good? And it's like anyone that's watched the team play will be like, because he is the team. And that's the reason that we win, because it's like he's one of those players that I feel like if in the first 5 minutes Harry Winks like completes all his passes, you're 95% chance you win the game. Like that's how confident I feel of him in this division. I don't think that'd be quite the case in the Premier League, but in this one, yeah, I just think he runs everything. But I would agree that Ndidi, because like, goals and win games, he got a goal and assist, could have had a lot more flair player, exciting to watch, but you have to be edgy.
Fair enough. Sorry. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I've got a few of them. I can't think of one. Again, Vestergaard for me was up there. Winks was up there for me. Even to be like an Ndidi, if he would have played more minutes, I could have given him the Mavrididi's another one. Jamie Vardy could have been man of the match today as well. McAteer, if he would have played more minutes, he could have been man of the match. They're all over the pitch, and this was compare that to. I know I keep going back to compare that to last season when we were voting the fans player of the year was Alex Smithies. In comparison, it's not.
Never forget the streets will never forget the 0 minutes he's played for the club.
The GOAT.
Exactly, the real goat of that one is probably going to be left out of this squad. But yeah, any other thoughts before we finish up? Because I'm really glad we had a longer podcast, but there's so much more so much great stuff to talk about as well.
No.
Good. Have a mute button for me. That's all I would recommend you.
No.
It's good.
No, your tactical analysis is second to none, brother. Seriously, I could just sit here and listen to you talk all day, and I would love to. It's great stuff, brother.
Anyways, thank you very much for the kind words. It's great to speak as well, and I love the international flavor of it. It's awesome. What time is it down for you, Luke, at the moment? What time is it for you, Mike?
Oh, mate, it's rough. It's 6:08 in the morning. I set my alarm for 2:30. And check this out. I set my alarm for 2:30, and I also had 5-a-side last night as well, so I've had about 3 hours sleep. But look, I'll end it with this. I told Neil earlier, I got up live for every single game last season. That's why I'm so happy with the whole Enzo thing, and it means so much to me because I had to get up for these games, watch all these crushing defeats, go to work, filthy all day, and it's just this. I was not expecting this. Honestly, at the end of last season, I was like, we're going to be a carcass. We're going to get picked clean. We're going to lose everybody. We're not going to get anyone in because we didn't really spend much in the last few transfer windows, and like I can't believe that we've still got Ricardo, Kalechi. Like, it's just rude. And then we've added, like we've all talked about, on top of that, it's just, straight back up. I don't care what anyone says. Book it. You've got receipts. I said it.
I want to change my man of the match to Luke. Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you.
Brilliant. So yeah, again, brilliant to have you on, Luke, for the first time. It's really good. Again, Mike, great to have you on. I know it's been a pleasure. Again, all of the information will be in the title and the first link in the description. So make sure you check them out. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you all in the next video. So goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.